Hello everyone, welcome to autumn class. Today we have with the 11th form, science and letter. And we have with a structure which is I would or I'd rather than, or if you want I had or I'd better. Let's go with a situation. Adam and Siaka are discussing about something. That is like, I think it is asking for preferences, what someone likes to do. Adama, what's your favorite game? What's your favorite game? Siaka, I'd rather think than reply you. I'd rather think than reply you. But football is interesting. And what is yours? Adama, I'd rather play cards. I'd rather play cards. And Siaka, to end the dialogue, sorry, but you'd better play Scrabble. Sorry, but you'd better play Scrabble. Okay, here are some expressions at the bottom. Here, I would rather than. I would rather than. The dot here is for the expression or the idea you want to express. You had better. You had better. I better plus a verb plus an object. Or you'd better plus a verb plus an object. An example here. You'd better, that means you had better learn your lessons. You'd better learn your lessons. Another expression. I'd rather plus a verb plus than plus a verb again. I'd rather plus a verb plus than plus a verb again. We have two verbs in this sentence. Okay, an example here, I'd rather travel through the world than stay here. The first verb is to travel and the second is to stay. I'd rather travel through the world than stay here. Another expression, I'd rather plus a subject or a pronoun if you want, plus a verb in simple past plus an object. I'd rather plus a subject or a pronoun plus a verb in simple past and then an object. We have two examples here. The first one is, I'd rather you told truth. I'd rather you told truth. I'd rather you didn't see her. I'd rather you didn't see her. Another example or another expression if you want. I'd rather means or equal to I'd prefer to. I'd rather equal to I prefer to plus a verb plus an object. An example, I would prefer to stay home. I would prefer to stay home. Or if you want the negative form, I will prefer not to go out with it, which is another way to say this sentence. This is another way to say this sentence. I would prefer to stay home. Or if you want, I would prefer not to go out. Okay, let's come to the summary. I'd rather or I would rather dot than. The dot is for this one and than. I'd better, that means I had better, are expressions of preferences. After these expressions, the following verb is used without to. I repeat, I'd rather, I'd better are expressions of preferences. And note that after these expressions, the following verb is used without to. The to is here. The to is here. And then, some examples here. We have two examples. I'd rather go home. This is the first expression here. I'd rather go home. That means I would rather go home. The second, I'd better go home. This is the second expression. I had better. I had better go home. Okay. Note again, rather than expresses in French plutôt que. Plutôt que. Whereas had better expresses in French ferait mieux de. Ferait mieux de. Okay. Before going with the activities, let us repeat slightly in French what we have said in English. Retenez que nous sommes avec les expressions de préférence qui nous permettent d'exprimer nos préférences durant une discussion ou quand quelqu'un nous demande comment exprimer ses préférences. Donc, nous avons utilisé deux expressions qui sont I would rather et I had better. Donc, ces deux expressions nous permettent ici d'exprimer nos préférences. Donc, maintenant, si vous devez exprimer vos préférences dorénavant, voilà deux expressions appropriées, sinon adéquates pour mieux vous exprimer. Donc, nous passons directement avec les activités. Okay, let's move to the activities. Activity 1. Instruction. Supply the appropriate tense or form for the bracketed verbs. Supply the appropriate tense or form for the bracketed verbs. The first sentence. You'd better to tell us the truth. You'd better to tell us the truth. Alu had better not to sleep all day long in classroom. Alu had better not to sleep all day long in classroom. Hassan would rather to answer my call than to keep quiet. Hassan would rather to answer my call than to keep quiet. The fourth, I would prefer to die in poverty than to do prostitution. I would prefer to die in poverty than to do prostitution. Activity 2. Substitute would rather by would prefer in the following sentences. Substitute would rather, by, would prefer in the following sentences. The first one here, I would rather travel by plane. I would rather travel by plane. The second, I would rather ring New York on my phone. I would rather ring New York on my phone. The third, I would rather go to the movie tomorrow. I would rather go to the movie tomorrow. The last one, I would travel by plane than by bus. I would rather travel by plane than by bus. Okay, activity 3, which is the last activity for today. Translate into English. 1. J'aimerais mieux rentrer dans mon pays. Pays in English, it is here, homeland. J'aimerais mieux rentrer dans mon pays. 2. Elle ferait mieux d'apprendre à conduire. Elle ferait mieux d'apprendre à conduire. 3. J'aimerais mieux apprendre l'anglais que l'espagnol. J'aimerais mieux apprendre l'anglais que l'espagnol. 4. Je préférais être un médecin plutôt qu'un juge. Je préférais être un médecin plutôt qu'un juge. And the last one, the fifth, je préférais plutôt que vous appreniez les verbes irréguliers pour demain. Je préférais plutôt que vous appreniez les verbes irréguliers pour demain. Okay, you have to translate these sentences into English. By the way, thanks for your following and take care. Bye-bye.